for the third time tonight. So we got Rocco and Carrie here. Obviously, you can see from the banners in front of us here and behind us, Gladiators of Steel. Short TV series here just dropped not too long ago.
A must-watch.
Yeah, definitely a must-watch. If you
WheelhouseTV.com.
Even if you're not a Derby guy.
Yeah.
It's just a good show, plain and simple. So we ended up getting together, decided we'd wanted to get some more details, talk to some of the drivers, some of the people they had on the show, kind of get some inside scoop, maybe find out some details on future stuff.
Yeah. People love to hear what's going to happen next.
Right.
I mean, he left us hanging.
But before we get there, let's start from the beginning here. What made you decide to do a series on Derby?
You know, I had never been to a Derby before. It's not something I grew up with. And as soon as I was introduced to the sport, as a filmmaker, I thought, this is a story that needs to be told. I had no idea what goes on behind the scenes at a Derby, what goes into a Derby, the work, the engineering, the artistry that you drivers put into these cars is incredible. And I just felt like people need to know about this.
Yep.
Right.
You know? So we wanted to make a show that was accessible to a broad audience, that Derby fans and drivers would enjoy, gearheads would enjoy, but Joe Blow off the street, who didn't know anything about Derby, they would enjoy it as well. So it was kind of walking that fine line of, we're going to do a deep dive into the world of Derby so that when the audience finishes the show, you know, they know, wow, that's what goes on. You know, this is how a Derby works. They walk away and they know, you know, what a Derby's all about. And there's so many fascinating people in this sport. And, you know, there's so many stories to tell. So we're just really excited that, you know, we could finally get the show out. It's a 6-part limited series, and it's exclusively available at Wheelhouse Motorsports, and that's wheelhousetv.com. And, you know, there's some great fun bonus content as well that you get with the show. But, you know, if you're a Derby fan, definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it.
Yeah.
Everyone I've talked to has loved it, so
Well,
there's no reason not to watch it.
It's never been done.
Right.
You know, you can't find that footage, those types of interviews. You can't find that anywhere else. Yeah, you can watch, you know.
And the quality.
Correct. You can watch a big show. You can get some of the interviews here and there. But a lot of that stuff you're not going to get at a show. You know, people actually talking, being real people. You know,
right?
So it's neat. It covers bases that, like I said, you just can't get anywhere else. Nope. You know, especially that first episode. You know,
uncharted territory.
Uncharted. That's exactly what it is.
It's awesome.
It opens the eyes. You know, I showed one of the guys I work with today just the beginning little clip of that.
Yep.
He just looked at me and he goes, "You're insane for getting in a car."
Right.
You know, he's like, "You're in. Like people are driving." I'm like, "Yeah, people are driving them." Obviously, he's like, "You guys are insane."
Right. So, is there a face behind Wheelhouse Motorsports? Is there a CEO, a owner?
Yeah, we actually started Wheelhouse, which is a motorsports platform. Gladiators of Steel is the first show on Wheelhouse. And, you know, we just feel like, you know, it was really important for us to give Derby drivers a voice.
Right.
We feel like, you know, Hollywood and sort of L.A. doesn't understand motorsports.
No, they don't.
Motorsports people. And they're certainly not giving that crowd, you know, a voice. I think they're trying to censor them more than anything. So for us, we wanted the show to be as authentic as possible.
Yep.
So we love giving Derby drivers a voice. And, you know, we didn't want to be in a position to where, you know, some network or studio or, you know, some woke millennial executive was giving us notes about removing Trump flags out of the background or or, you know, oh, you got to cut that because it might offend somebody, or, you know. So we're really proud of the fact that this is a very authentic, realistic look, and whether you agree with someone's, you know, lifestyle or even their politics or whatever,
Right.
for me, I think it's fascinating to take a good, honest look at a culture that might be different than yours. You know,
Right.
you just never know what you're going to learn, or, you know, it's fascinating. So again, we've got, you know, a really interesting group of people that are putting their heart and soul into a sport that they're so passionate about. They're willing to put in the hours and the money and the time to put on a show for the crowd, and, you know, do it because they love it. And, you know, that's rare. And so this sport, most people don't know a lot about it, and we felt like, you know, this is an opportunity to do the deep dive,
Right.
you know, into the sport of derby, but do it in a really cinematic way, because
Right.
you don't really, you know, find that very often either. So we're real proud of the show, and just, you know, we love the sport. And
Sure. Another, and I don't know, you don't have to answer this, but maybe for the people watching, because it's a high quality show. I mean, do you know off the top of your head how many hours and the money that it took to produce this?
yeah, I mean, we spent 3 years making this show.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and we put a lot into it. You know, but again, we felt like it was worth it. We feel like, you know, more and more people I think, will discover the show. It'll find an audience.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if it, you know, gets more people interested, you know, in going out and going to a derby, then
Right.
that, you know, mission accomplished. You know,
Right.
that's what we want to do. We want to keep this sport alive because it's so unique, and it's, you know, and then there's so many great stories to tell. We're looking forward to telling more stories,
Right.
and going to different parts of the country and maybe even around the world, you know,
Right.
and examining derby. I mean, it's been around for quite a while, and, you know, it's evolving, and it's just, you know, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and we would all hate to see it fall off. So it's, you know, I commend all of you for going the lengths that you have with it. It's cool to see. It's cool to see because, you know, you go to NASCAR, NHRA, you know, they have that stuff. You know, they have the media behind it. Derby doesn't. If someone doesn't step up, there is not, you know, you don't have big brands, big corporations backing anything. It's mostly all drivers in their own pocketbooks, and you guys are the first media platform to step in. So, I mean, it could be monumental for the sport itself, and I hope it is. It's already, you know, looking to be that way.
I guess the big elephant in the room. You know, what details can you give us about the future of the show?
Yeah, we want to keep going. We feel like there's so much to mine from this sport,
Yep.
and so many stories to tell. We want to keep telling the stories. So, you know, any support we can get, you know, from derby fans, and you know, we're just starting to push it out to kind of a broader crowd.
Yep.
But our grassroots effort of getting the word out on this show has been to derby fans, and, you know, we need your support, you know,
Right.
to keep the show going. So, but we're planning some fun stuff. We're going to be doing another season of Gladiators of Steel and examining some other aspects of derby.
Yeah.
It was really fun, you know, in the first incarnation, the 6-part limited series, season 1,
Yep.
to really sort of establish, okay, here's what the sport is, here's how it works, you know, just to educate. So you could be just, you know, someone who's completely unfamiliar with derby and walk away really understanding, okay, now I know what that sport's all about. And most people, it's really eye-opening for them.
Right.
And so, you know, the first 3 episodes really kind of revolve around a big show in Las Vegas. The Sin City Showdown is a stern dirt show. It was an amazing show. It was, you know, a 4-day show. And there were drivers from all over the country. And it's, you know, it's the last time they did a show in Vegas. You know, it was done
Correct.
right before the pandemic. You know, people have been talking about it ever since. And will we get another one? I don't know, you know.
Right.
There was more scheduled, actually. You know, we were supposed to have one.
March.
Yeah, that following year, and then obviously the COVID happened, and it got shut down and postponed,
The COVID.
and then it got shut down again, and then kind of just faded for a while.
It was a very special show, so we're really glad that we were able to document that show
Right.
for all time.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
we documented that show, and it was an interesting show because there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened in that show.
Yes.
And then you had, you know, sort of this collision of all these different driving styles and cultures and people coming from all over the country. So it's pretty interesting to watch, you know, everything from the builds to the inspections to, you know, the competition in the arena, the politics, you know, the unexpected stuff that happens.
Right.
It's pretty interesting stuff. So the first 3 episodes really do sort of establish, you know, what Derby is, how it works,
Right.
and revolves around that show. And then the next 3 episodes sort of take the audience through the eyes of a young, you know, Derby driver, Hannah Shelley, and who comes from a Derby family. And just, you know, we get to go on the journey from literally picking the car, building the car, all the way to running in a Derby, you know, and she travels to, you know, from Utah to California and runs against, you know, she's the only girl running against, you know, 18 seasoned
Right.
drivers in California, and it's pretty you know, it's interesting what happens. So you know, but we're looking forward to, you know, finding new stories and diving even deeper into the sport, you know.
That's great.
It'll be fun. I mean, unfortunately, the tough part of that is there's 1,000 of those stories that could be told
Yeah, I agree.
all across, you know,
Yeah.
in every state. There's a story that could be told about Derby, especially if, you know, just Derby families or somebody that doesn't have anybody in the family that just went to one and said, I want to do this.
Right.
Because you will hear that from a lot of drivers currently, you know, I just went to one and said, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Here they are.
We had a premiere, kind of a red carpet event, and invited the cast and sort of had a premiere screening, and we're going to be posting some more video from that premiere, but it was really fun to have a theater packed full of, and some of the people in the audience had never been to a Derby before.
Right.
Sure.
Then you had seasoned Derby drivers, and you kind of have this big group of people, and the audience really got into it, and it was fun to hear some of these guys afterwards say, man, I am going to the next Derby. One guy, you know, he likes exotic cars and drives exotic cars, and he's like, I'm gonna trade my car in for a Derby car. I've got to like run a Derby, you know.
Yeah.
So it's fun to sort of shine a spotlight
Yeah.
on this sport that is so great, so interesting. It's, you know, so we're really proud of the show.
Right.
Yeah. It's really a niche thing, too. I mean, there really is nothing else like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not on this side of the pond.
There's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
So.
You got some banger racing across the pond, but
Right.
not over here. I mean, there is nothing else like it. And until you've been in a car once,
Right.
you know, you can watch all the movies you want, and you're not going to understand it.
No. Or even the feel, the adrenaline, the
Yeah.
butterflies, the everything.
But a show like this, you know, you kind of get an idea of what
What it takes.
you know. You can see the excitement through the video, you know,
Right.
through talking to these people. You can see the excitement in their voice, you know, coming out of the car, getting ready to go in. You know, you get a somewhat of an aspect of what they're there for, you know.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you hear
absolutely.
the excitement. I mean, these guys are so passionate about what they do. And, you know, Troy Tagg, who's a driver from California, you know, at one point, you know, his interview was so great. Some of the stuff he says, and at one point he says, you know, life is hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have Derby, you know, and a lot of these guys, you know, life's short. You got to find something you love. You got to find something that you just really enjoy doing and do it, and my hat's off to these guys for working their asses off
Right.
to make it happen. Like the amount of time and energy and money they put into these cars and some of the genius engineering, it's inspiring. So there's a lot of inspiring stories. So
I think the engineering aspect, I know you've touched on it twice now. None of them, well, I shouldn't say
Common
none of them.
misconception.
A lot of them don't have, I would say, a lot of them probably don't have engineering degrees, quote unquote, but just the ingenuity and what they come up with is unreal.
Absolutely. That's common
Unreal.
misconception. People, who don't understand the sport, a bunch of rednecks. And
No, it's not at all.
no, it's not. Like, there's people from all walks of life that derby, for one, but two, these guys would embarrass some engineers about the stuff that they need to come up with to fix a problem.
It is. It's inspiring. It's amazing, and you can tell it's just pure love and passion for
Absolutely.
the building of the car
Yeah.
and figuring it out. It's trial and error. It's and it's amazing. And what's incredible is you got these drivers in the pits with just whatever tools they brought with them in a dirt field, essentially. And,
Yeah.
and they are literally re-engineering, rebuilding their cars to make
Right.
it into the next heat after. You see a car come out of the arena and you're like, that car's done. That car is never going to drive again. That's it. And literally within 90 minutes, they've got that thing back
Yeah.
in the arena going full blast. It's insane.
Yeah, probably frame pulled down, tranny swap.
Oh my God, that's what I would have said about Tripler's car down in Vegas. That thing was, I guess I would have never expected to see it back in the
I
arena.
think he was on his fourth tranny by the end.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That guy worked down there hard.
You'll be talking to him tomorrow. You'll have to quiz
Yeah.
him on that. That was, Tripler's a hell of a driver. I mean, Anthony Tripler out of Utah, there's been a couple years where he's the driver in Utah who's won the most.
Sure.
He's a hell of a driver and builder.
So as part of the, we'll kind of go back to the show platform. I know it's really hard to work with Hollywood, and that's why you're kind of trying to make this mark and do it, kind of push it out. I wouldn't say on your own, but would there ever be a chance of you guys getting it on a platform as far as, I don't know, say, Netflix or something like that? I mean, is that even a possibility? Has it been a?
I don't think it's something we want to do. I don't think some of these platforms, frankly, would care to have a show like ours on their platform. I don't think. I think it scares them. I think they're too worried about their shareholders or some group being offended and
Political
and
agendas.
then they'll have to just pull the show and the amount of censorship these days, it's stunning. I mean, last I heard, we had freedom of speech, and we're still America, and just because you don't agree with somebody's politics or what they have to say doesn't mean they have to be canceled and silenced.
Correct.
And that's another element of the show that we love, and that's why we started a platform so that we could showcase a show like this, because
Right.
I know that there's people out there that once they see it, they're not going to realize how much they missed this type of content because, frankly, it's not being made much anymore.
Right.
So no, I don't think we really want to be part of some of these other platforms. I think
Sure.
we want to put this out, and people that like this kind of content, we're going to put it out, and they're going to find it. So
Sure.
It would definitely. You would lose the.
Authentic. Yeah. Yep. I was thinking the same thing when you
Yeah, I
were
mean,
thinking.
not just that, but I mean, you would not just that, you would lose so much.
Right.
If you don't portray it the way it was done. I mean, it was done.
The truth.
Like, that's what I mean. If you don't portray the way it's done,
Right.
you'll never see the full aspect of this sport. The hate, people yelling, throwing stuff, the anger after a bad call, the smiles and beers afterwards, the emotion of pulling into that arena and getting the win or getting your ass kicked and coming back out.
Right.
I don't think you'd get that if you didn't do it the way you did, where you just said, screw everybody else, we're going to do it our own way. Because
right, and show the real.
Then you get, to show the raw version of it versus, everything else that comes out of Hollywood these days, and it's pleasing somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's an examination of a sport and a culture, and whether, it's your thing or not, you might learn something. We just wanted to show it in an authentic way, and people can make up their own minds how they feel about it.
Right.
Instead of some manipulative, one-sided sort of thing. We just didn't want to do that. So I think as soon as art lies, it becomes worthless.
Right.
I think that authenticity is so key. But again, we love the sport. We want people to learn about it and hopefully appreciate it.
Right.
Because these guys don't get the credit they deserve, frankly.
Right. So when you, I don't know where it started, where Hannah's portion kind of started in the series.
Episode 3.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So like when you guys went to these shows, did you bring a media crew? I mean, was there people like, I guess in my mind I'm thinking, is there people all around her always filming, or was it kind of that sense?
Yeah. So we would show up to a derby, and we're shooting with Arri, Alexa motion picture cameras.
Yep.
Essentially the same camera that they shoot James Bond movies with.
Right.
We really wanted that cinematic look. We wanted to be right there in the trenches with the drivers. I mean, I was operating one of the cameras, so we've got several cameras. We put GoPros in the cars. We've got drones. We're covering it from all angles, and we're right there. I mean, I'm eating dirt, literally.
Right.
I'm like right on the K-rail.
Right.
And you got to be really, I've shot a lot of sports, and you really do have to just kind of have your peripheral all the time, because
right.
if a car is coming, you got to get out of the way. That's how close we were on the side. But there's a quality to that. We're giving the audience something that they don't see from the stands.
Yeah.
And that was the key for us. It's like we're inside the car with the drivers.
Right.
And it's interesting. There's a once in a while we'll get a comment. It's like, I don't like the crash sounds.
Right.
And we've got professional microphones right down there in the arena.
Yep.
And those engines are so loud. It's all, if you understand sort of sound frequencies and the range of sound, so with the microphone, we pick up those engines really well, and it's got a lot of range, and they sound amazing. We love the sound of the engines. A car crash, when you record a car crash with a microphone, the impact, the sound, the frequency of that sound is such a high-end sound that the microphone doesn't really register.
Right.
And so when you're watching it, you're hearing the engines, those impacts, we want the audience to feel the impact like the driver does. And so we would record crashes separately with a special microphone, which is operating kind of on a whole different frequency. And so we would mix that like you would a motion picture.
Sure.
And, we tested it. It's like, okay, well, here's just sort of one microphone picking it up live, and you have the engines drowning everything out, and those impacts, the frequency is so high it just doesn't register.
Yeah.
And it, you want to hear that crash.
Yeah,
you want to, and it's, for a derby driver, they've got all their senses. They've got the feeling of the crash, the sound of the crash, they're tasting the dirt. It's like all the senses are at play, and the audience, when you're watching a piece of content on TV or in the movie theater, you've got your visual and you've got your audio, and the audio is a real big part of it. Yeah. And so really it is trying to help the audience feel what it's like to be in those cars. So, that's why we do the crashes the way we do. And, it's mixed like a motion picture. It's mixed in, Dolby Digital 5.1. And so when you have a sound system and you're listening to it in 5.1 and all those frequencies are balanced, because most people, and this is fine, but most people will watch it on their flat screen TV, and there's a little, 2-inch speaker on the TV, and that's fine, but they're not getting the full impact. And so, anyway, we really took the time to, do this like you would a feature film.
Yeah.
The visuals are very cinematic, and it's like a feature film sound mix.
Sure.
And again, we really want to show the sport, in the best possible way and give the audience an experience.
Right. Did you get any weird looks with all the cameras and everything at the derbies, or
Not too much.
No. Or didn't everyone kind of know what was going on?
The drivers are really cool. I mean, again, I think that the excitement and just the desire to just celebrate the sport. We were all there celebrating the sport in our own way, So,
right.
No, it was great. It was fantastic. So.
Have any drivers run from you?
There were a couple of drivers that
There's always
were a little uncomfortable. Robbie Layton. We love Robbie. There's a lot of amazing drivers, and we're just glad that we could that they were cool enough to let us show the world what they do.
Right.
That's all we wanted to do.
Yeah. No, the footage part to me is super interesting because
I'll say something. Let me say something about Robbie Layton.
Yeah.
So Robbie was in May Mania one year, and we were shooting May Mania. And Robbie, super cool guy, incredible driver, great builder. I've got nothing but great things to say about Robbie Layton.
Yep.
He showed up, and this is actually going to be. We are going to, show this at some point. But Robbie showed up a little late, went through inspections, kind of barely made it for time, and they weren't going to let him pass. His engine was 4 inches off.
Oh.
And they're like, this is, inspection wouldn't let him let him run.
Right.
And it was a team show, and basically his partner would have had to run alone, and so Robbie Layton. This was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Robbie Layton goes into the pits, swearing all the way, but he gets into the pits, and he pulls that engine.
Yeah.
In 90 minutes, he pulled the engine, moved it 4 inches, and with seconds to spare, made it into the heat. It was amazing.
Right.
And, that's just a testament to, like, the kind of driver and builder Robbie Layton is. And again, the whole Derby family and the culture, people jumped in, they helped, everybody pitched in, whether you were, on the opposite team or whatever, it's everybody jumped in and helped Robbie make that happen, but literally in a dirt field with just, limited tools.
Yeah.
He pulled it off. It was incredible. So hats off to Robbie, and he's always very he's an exciting driver, always entertaining to watch.
Yeah. No, he always has been. He's one of those other guys that always had fancy paint jobs and always used to have the lightning bolts. So, he's been.
It's crazy to see, though. Like you said, getting something like that changed out in that small of a time. But you go to a lot of these shows, you'd be amazed at how much
It's done.
You get a couple decent derby guys together, they'll rebuild an entire car in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is, and we just feel like this is something that everybody needs to see. I mean, the world needs to see, what really goes on.
Right.
People can be like you said. You watch the show, you can be amazed. Like you see some of that sort of stuff that you will never see
if you don't watch it.
If you don't watch it, or unless you're going and buying pit passes and going and standing in somebody's way, which you don't want to do.
Right.
You're never going to see that, or to be a driver yourself, then you see it obviously because you understand it. But you'll never see the kind of stuff that you get to see without watching this. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's some guys out on YouTube that put out some nice videos of trying to show people how to do certain build style stuff, but you're not going to see it in this aspect.
No, definitely not.
Which, again, I think there's a lot of people that are going to watch that, and it's going to be a rude awakening. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
How much blood, sweat, tears, money, time.
Yeah.
These guys put into these cars that are showing up to the local county shows. It's like there's a lot of time.
Well, and something I don't think we touched on much today was the work-life balance. You're away from your family a lot building these cars, whether even if it's just 20 feet away in the garage, you're not there all night. Your wife's putting the kids to bed, you're out in the shop. That's a toll on the family aspect too.
Oh yeah.
So
that's the stuff that the audience doesn't see. Derby fans, they'll come to a Derby, they'll have a great time, the drivers put on a show, but they don't realize what these guys do to get these cars ready to go into the arena. And they do. It's a sacrifice of time. And again, it's a family sport because the family's got to be on board.
Absolutely.
If the family's not on board, it's not happening. And but the whole family will come along and they'll pitch in the pits, and it's really inspiring, frankly.
Yeah.
I love watching the triplers, Emily and Anthony, and they've got their kids, their daughters, and their little boy out there,
Yep.
Anthony, there's a picture of a tripler holding his first daughter, a week old, at a Derby, He's raising those kids right,
Yeah, straight from the beginning. That's, yeah, I couldn't do without my wife, but it was a strict rule before we got married. She had to know she was marrying into the Derby lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because it is a lifestyle, for sure.
Yeah. Fortunately, I kind of tricked my wife. I derbied for years and then quit when I was in the military, and then stayed out of it for 5 years. And then we had kids, and we were actually at a Derby with at the time my only child, my oldest, and took him that first Derby, and he was all pumped about it. And I said, your dad used to do this.
Yeah.
And he goes, really, blah, blah. And I looked over at Mom, and she says, if you want to start doing it again, you can.
Yeah.
So, but definitely a family sport. But again, people don't understand the sacrifice that a lot of these guys do.
Oh God.
Deal with,
We were lucky. The production. I got to give a shout out to John Gullo and Jim Gumby Simcoe. They run Stern Dirt.
Mm-hmm.
They're great promoters. Those guys were invaluable into this production. They gave us access to their shows. They, were great consultants and just really good partners on this show, just good, honorable, fair guy. It's amazing, but a lot of the drivers don't understand how much those guys do behind the scenes for the drivers.
Yeah.
A lot of times the drivers are at the show, and it's like, okay, well, let's say there's a call they don't agree with, or someone doesn't pass inspection, and Johnny and Gumby are always like the guys that everyone points the finger to. Granted, they hire a third-party company to come in and do the inspections and judge the shows, so it's unbiased, and they can't overturn a call.
Right.
But those guys take the heat. But it's amazing having worked with them to see how much they actually care about the drivers and try to take care of the drivers behind the scenes. I'm constantly seeing them. That's their priority, is like taking care of the drivers, and they don't get the credit they deserve. Good guys. But, and we've met some fantastic promoters, and even a lot of the drivers back east, the Siopas and the Pete Hansons and, great guys. Just the whole community is just fantastic. So many good people,
Right. Well, I know there was a lot of footage taken in Vegas. There was a lot of GoPros put in cars. What happened to all the footage? Do you guys still have all the raw footage?
Yeah, we've got all the raw footage.
So if I asked for the footage I know there was a GoPro put in my car the first night.
Yeah.
And, I never knew what happened with it, because it was just like, you pulled in, they're like, hey, can we put this in your cars? Sure. No one had any clue what was going on. So if I could ever get that footage.
Again, we love to take care of our customers at Wheelhouse, people that are supporting the show. And we're going to be releasing more content constantly, because we're going to be releasing because we were able to cover all those heats. I mean, day one there were 14 heats.
Yeah, it was long.
That was just day one. And
was a
there were
long
some
day.
incredible heats, and obviously we couldn't show all of that in the show.
No.
So we're going to start releasing, full heats.
Okay.
But with the incredible coverage of 12 cameras, you know.
Perfect.
And we're going to start releasing that stuff because, again, I think fans will, love to just watch that show.
Yeah.
Especially with the kind of coverage we had. So, within the bonus content, one of the bonus content pieces is you can watch that main event too in its entirety.
Okay.
It's a 35-minute heat.
Sure.
And you can watch it with all those camera angles and see it up close and personal.
Sure.
And see it uncut, and
That's cool.
we're going to be doing more of that stuff as well.
Sure.
Good.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's good and there's bad and there's ugly. That all happens within the Derby, And
Right.
I know. I can guarantee the footage of me that you guys have on a GoPro somewhere. It was the night I got pushed over the berm, and I was cussing the whole time in my car. Throwing the steering wheel. The whole works.
Do you remember what day and what heat?
First day.
First day. Okay.
First day, probably.
Third heat, fourth or fourth heat.
Yeah,
Third or
I don't
fourth?
remember what heat it was.
Yeah, that was right around when the sun was going down, I think.
Yep.
I got shoved over the whatever you call it, the barricades there, and I had a GoPro in my car, so I know it was caught on footage somewhere, but I
Nice.
never did know where it went.
I wouldn't be surprised if that entire heat shows up on Wheelhouse Motorsports.
Sure,
And
that's awesome.
We're gonna just start building a library of content, and at some future point, we've got a couple other motorsport shows that we're working on. We're going to continue Demolition Derby, but dive into some other motorsports as well.
Awesome.
And at some future point, I think we may go to a subscription based
Yeah.
model, so subscribers can just have access to everything. And
Yep.
but again, the support of our first show is
Huge.
huge. So we really appreciate you guys and
Yeah.
just and anything we can do to support you guys because we love what you're doing as well. We love Derby.
Yeah.
We love
Yep.
Derby, promoting Derby, talking about Derby.
Well, even motorsports in general. Yeah. I mean, if you guys are getting into other motorsports, we've been in the snowcross scene and
Nice.
Anything with a motor.
anything. We've kind of been all over now.
You give me a shopping cart with a motor,
AMSOIL has a national series.
I'll talk about it all day.
We just interviewed them, the AMSOIL National Series.
Yep, snowmobile team.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean,
But
it's cool to hear that you're getting into other motorsport aspects because, like you said, hence why we're doing it as well. The motorsport world is not, there's no light shed on it hardly at all. So that's super awesome.
Yeah, again, we just, we think there's so much to mine from this. There's so many great stories. People are interesting, and we just love motorsports.
And years of history
yeah,
involved.
you could go back to
50s.
50s, yeah, when
The
this really
50s.
kicked off, and you could find families that are still going with their
I've seen talks on social media of like when derbying actually started. I don't know if there's ever like a pinpoint. It's like 54, 55.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that, but I don't know if there's like anyone can officially say a day. But that's a long time ago.
Yeah, depends on what state
Times
you're
were way
tracking down.
different then,
Yeah.
way different.
Yeah, it was, a lot of people talk about Islip Speedway and Larry Mendelson, and he was driving home, he was promoting racing, and he was driving home one night, and there was, just a traffic jam of cars, and there was a big car accident,
Yeah.
and he realized, wow, look, everybody is, they're so interested in the crash.
Yep.
And that's where he got the idea. Why not just do an event where we're crashing on purpose? Because every
Right.
time there was a unexpected, unintentional crash in racing,
Yep.
the audience goes nuts, right? And so, legend has it,
Right.
that's kind of the
Where it
birth,
started.
because he started doing some of the first demolition derbies. But it's interesting, and it's interesting to see how it's evolved. Because
How
it's
it spread. I mean, alone.
Exactly, it spread.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it's like just find a beater and just knock out the windows and just run it.
Yep.
And now the builds are so complicated
Mm-hmm.
and so incredible, and and the rules and the inspections and the artistry and that goes into it.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff.
Well, you guys got to go check out the show. You want stuff like this to keep happening. You want them to keep producing this high quality footage and keep kicking out videos and stuff like this. We got to give them some support. So you go check it out. Wheelhouse TV is the only place you can find it right now. So
Thank you.
go give them a shout out. Go check it out. Tell them what you think.
And obviously, we're going to slowly be dropping all these episodes with all the team, show the behind the scenes kind of who they are, why they did it.
Right. Without anybody could take a look at the footage and say this wasn't cheap for somebody to make.
No.
Good Lord.
And time consuming.
Yeah.
Very time consuming.
Joke, but you want, the derby world, you want something good like this to keep going. It's like we all would like it to keep going, but
yep.
We got to support the people trying to put in the hard work to do it. So
right.
For that, thank you. I think a lot of people would say the same thing. So you guys are doing good work.
Commend the effort. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Really, that means a lot. Thank you.
Looking forward to some more work out of
Yeah.
what you guys got coming down the pipeline. So
Well, it means a lot because you guys are derby drivers too. You know? I mean, that's so. Thank you.
No, yeah. I mean, not everyone sees the big picture, but hopefully this opens the big picture for people that there's more to it, and expands it across, and hopefully make it great again, right?
and it's fun.
And
right?
it's fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Pleasure
you.
being here. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right. That was fun. Thanks, guys.
Derby's like going hunting but giving the deer a gun and letting it shoot back.
It's legal road rage.
Running demolition derby, it's like a drug.
The adrenaline rush is like nothing else.
I just can't stay away from it.
You gotta find something that you love. For me, I love demolition derby.
My daughter Hannah decided she wanted me to build her a car,
It's kind of a piece of shit.
but the frame's good under it. And for a stock show, I don't think there can be a better car. People think you're crazy to go out there and wreck a car that you've got so much money invested in.
You can't half-ass derby.
Demolition derby is a lifestyle.
You've got to love it. You've got to do it. You got to commit to it. And if you don't, you're gonna get your ass kicked.
If you are about participation trophies, then derbying is not for you.
Hannah is, she's a fireball.
Can't weigh more than 100 pounds wet. And that was pretty impressive to see a young girl go out there with a bunch of seasoned, hard-hitting drivers in California